Hi guys, this is Master Control. I'm using a new mic, so bear with me. Today I'm doing deck tech on Nath of the Gilt-Leaf. He's black green, 3 mana, or 5 mana in total. He's a 4/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may have target opponent discard a card at random. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you may put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token onto the battlefield. So as you know from some of our previous videos, we mainly focus on 1v1 MTGO competitive, and we found that Nath of the Gilt-Leaf is extremely good in 1v1 because the opponent that you are always targeting is your opponent, and limiting resources in Commander is one of the best ways to win. And he does a really good job of that. He's a little high in cost, but of course you build the deck around his ability, and there's a lot of resource denial in this deck, and some pretty good colors for it too. So I'll start with the land base first. Just some lands to note. I have Ancient Tomb in here, obviously. I have Barren Moor and the green cycling land. This is so I can pair it up with things like Life from the Loam, so I can recur lands and still get my draw. We also have a lot of ramp in this deck, so getting one of those lands later in the game doesn't really hurt at all. We have 4 lands that destroy lands, so Dust Bowl, Tectonic Edge, Strip Mine, and Wasteland. These come in handy a lot. We have many ways to recur them, and it helps you sort of get ahead of the game early. Other than that, we have Deserted Temple. This is so you can untap things like Cabal Coffers. And yeah, that's it for the lands. For 1-drops, the discarding 1-drops, we have Raven's Crime, which once again works fantastic with Life from the Loam. It's also nice to get later in the game because you can just hit them a couple of times if you have some extra lands in your hand. And once again, we have ways to recur those lands. We have Thoughtseize and Duress. I took out Inquisition just because we have so much discard in this deck that something limited like that won't help as much. So these are a lot more quicker and they hit a lot harder. We have Crop Rotation for some of the important lands, mainly Strip Mine and Wasteland. Urborg or Cabal Coffers if you have the other one on the battlefield. Nature's Claim. You always want to be aware of that first turn Soul Ring or Mana Crypt. Then we have a bunch of Mana Dorks. Now this deck, it's a little higher curve than most competitive decks. We have a couple of 7-drops, a couple of 5-drops, but these creatures also fuel some of the other combos that we have in the deck. I'll show you that in a little bit. It's also nice to get ahead of the game with Nath of the Gilt-Leaf just to slam him down, or to put him down into a counter spell, so you can use some of your other discard against your opponent. Deathrite Shaman, let's move some of the graveyard stuff just in case they put a threat into the graveyard with his discard ability. And then of course we have the Tutor package. I'll just go through that real quick. The Tutor package is essential for one of the combos we have in our deck, and it's just good utility all around. So we have Imperial Seal, Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, and Grim Tutor. We also have Diabolic Intent. This is one of those ones where you have to sacrifice a creature. So in a lot of decks, this is a little bit high maintenance, but it's really nice in this deck because your general puts out 1/1s. So we have 5 tutors there. Plus we have Liliana, so I guess 6 in total. So this is a pretty good deck as far as tutors go. I mean, any deck that touches black, you're going to want a lot of tutors, but this one we put a little bit more in just to hit some of the main combos. Okay, I'll go through the removal package. We have Dismember, Go for the Throat, Abrupt Decay, Maelstrom Pulse. As far as board wipes go, we have Pernicious Deed, Toxic Deluge, and Damnation. Now that may not seem like a lot, but we also have many things to recur them. For example, Yawgmoth's Will, Regrowth, Eternal Witness. and we have plenty of tutors to get them. So although it's only 3 board wipes, they're very easy to get, and they're very easy to get back. And with all the spot removal we have, it's never really a problem. Okay, I'll go through the ramp package. Nature's Lore, 3 visits. These are probably the most effective, cost-effective ramp in green. They cost 2, and you basically get a land that comes in untapped. So in effect, if you have 2 mana, they cost 1. And then you'll have 2 up for next turn. We have Cultivate, Cross and Grip. These are nice if you have things like Raven's Crime in your hand, because you can load your hand with land to throw away. It's also nice with things like Liliana out, so you can just ramp and once again have something to throw away to the graveyard. What else do we have? I'll go through our discard package. Hymn to Tuark. It's pretty straightforward. 2 mana. Target player discards 2 cards at random. Mana for mana, that's the best discard spell you're going to get. But if you have plenty of mana, Mind Twist and Mind Shatter. Now I put in both here just because they're both extremely on theme, although Mind Shatter is not nearly as good as Mind Twist. They both do the same thing. One's 1 mana more, and they take your opponent right out of the game. This deck is very good at taking out land, taking out your opponent's hand, and then taking out threats on the board, just so you can push through your win cons. Okay, Life from the Loam. As I've said, it's pretty good to get back Strip Mine and Wasteland. Also, some of those cycle lands really work well with it, just so you can Life from the Loam and not miss your draw. Feeding your graveyard in this deck isn't too bad, because we have at least 3 ways to recur things from the graveyard. Yawgmoth's Will, Regrowth, and Eternal Witness. Okay, Sylvan Scrying just fetches you any land you want. It's pretty good. I like it more than the map, Expedition map, which I don't have in here, just because it puts it right in your hand for 2 mana instead of 3. I'll go through my draw now. Sylvan Library. It's pretty straightforward. Phyrexian Arena, Necropotence, Coercive Portal, and Geth's Grimoire. Geth's Grimoire is one of those things that if you don't, like, if it's not useful, you're already in the driver's seat. It may seem like a little win more, but if you get it down before you get your discard going, it's almost a lock. You just get so far ahead of the game. So it's whenever an opponent discards a card, you draw a card. And I'll show you some of the discard tricks we have in this deck right now. So, Nezumi Bone Reader. This is pay 1 black mana, sacrifice a creature, target player discards a card. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. So if you have your general on the battlefield, it basically is pay 1 swamp, target opponent discards a card, and you can keep on doing it because you can keep on sacking the elves that Nath makes. That's the same deal with Mind Slash, except for this one's an enchantment. 1 black mana, sacrifice a creature, and you choose what they discard. So that's pretty nice as well. It also comes in handy, even if you don't have Nath on the battlefield. Later in the game, if you have some mana dorks out, you can just throw them away to get your opponent to discard. So you're turning those things that no longer have value into high value. Okay, what else do we have? Beast Within, forgot to mention that. That's just straight up removal. Cross and Grip, it's never failed me. Crucible of Worlds, I don't need to go too much into that. You can just recur, Strip Mine, Wasteland, whatever you like. Lightning Greaves, Mind Stone, just all around sort of utility. Okay, I'll go into one of the major combos now. We have Leyline of the Void. So this card is, if any card is put into your opponent's graveyard, it gets exiled instead. If you pair that up with Helm of Obedience, this card basically reads, pay X mana, tap it, they mill until they hit a creature, or X. Now, the creature has to go into the graveyard, and since Leyline of the Void doesn't allow things to hit the graveyard, they just get exiled instead. You can exile your opponent's entire library for 1 mana. Leyline of the Void also has the unique ability of entering the battlefield before the game begins, or right when the game begins, so it could cost a little less. The whole combo is 9 mana, but there are many ways to search for it in the deck, and that is by no means the only way this deck can win. It's just one of the many combos in it that's very easy to get. So I have Karuk. The tokens come in handy with those 2 enchantments where you can sack creatures. And the untapped 2 lands is always relevant. The -4, this isn't an aggro deck, but it has come in handy for me in the past. Like when I made Vraska's tokens, for example, I've been able to overrun. It's not the most useful ability, but it's not useless in this deck. Liliana, I've touched on that briefly. +1, target player discards a card. -2, tutor. I mean, this is on theme. Doesn't get much better than that. I do have the other Liliana in here as well. Each opponent discards a card. Target player sacrifices a creature. Those are very relevant. -2 is on theme, which is basically just resource denial, and the +1 is resource denial as well. So Sadistic Hypnotist is much like those other 2 enchantments that I showed you, or sorry, Izumi Bone Reader and Mind Slash. Sacrifice a creature, target player discards 2 cards. The nice thing about this is when you get it on the battlefield, you can discard their hand for free, and you get 2 tokens with Nath on the battlefield every time you use its ability, just because they have to discard 2 cards. So this is a really nice card. It's a little bit high mana cost once again, but it just ends the game. Vraska, her +1 isn't really useful. Her -3 is very much on theme, which is resource denial, destroy target non-land permanent, and her -7 is a very effective way to win games. You might not think you would ever get to it, but in this deck it is extremely easy, just because we find that early in the game you can get your opponent to be top decking, and if they don't concede to that, Vraska finishes up the job real quick. I forgot to mention Chains of Mephistopheles. This would stop anybody who's drawing an extra card at turn. It's pretty effective. I've had people just concede to it being on the stack. Karn, not much to say about him. Exile target permanents and then keep exiling their hand. Obviously, the +4 doesn't help out Nath, but it helps out a deck if you want to win. That's all I have to say about that. Garuk, I sort of wanted to try this card out. It may not be the best thing I could have put in. Ugin may have been a little better. There are a lot of non-creature permanents, or sorry, there are a lot of color permanents I don't necessarily want to erase from the board with Ugin, but this one is just sort of fun. Destroy target planeswalker, put a 3/3 beast on the battlefield, destroy target creature, and then it has sort of like a super overrun ability. So I'm trying it out for now. Of course, when I get it out, it does some work, but it's also 7 mana, so I don't necessarily like to see it in my opening hand, but I'm never unhappy to see it as I go through the game. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the deck test.